Well, this is old Hillary mixing up another batch. She's got to go out on the campaign trail again, you know? Anyway. Yeah, in a way, if that lady ever got to be president, I'd probably have so much fun online poking jabs at her anyway, so I don't care. And nobody's going to listen to her, including her Secret Service. They'll probably trip her every time she walks out of the Air Force One, and she'll fall down there and go, anyway. So, whatever happens, happens. I know in the politics and economy, it's all rigged, right? What the hell else is new, right? And we'll also tell you this, originally, I'm going to get to some of the stuff on silver. There's only so much you could talk about these damn shiny coins about. But let me tell you this, it's Hillary actually was the pick of the elite. Like Warren Buffett said that. And he was behind her too, So like, there's some people are saying I'm envious of Warren Buffett. I'm saying, yeah, I like his money, but I'm not envious of him personally, that's for sure. And also to tell you, man, the guy's a pretty damn evil bastard because, the politicians they pick are the ones that bail them out, right? What else is new? So, we're just going to take some freaking Karnak the magician type, fortune telling here because I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen is going to be a flash crash in the markets. Not something like the flash crash that happened a couple of years ago in May. We had a flash crash in 10 minutes. But over a month, you're going to see most of the freaking free fall happen. Not maybe next month, but when it happens, it's going to happen quick. We got obvious signs that how this year has already started out and actually how even the last year was finishing up. What's going on. Now, some other interesting news out there is that, this is something I've been thinking about a while. Like, when is it really going to get, hot and heavy with warfare in the Middle East? If, after our wonderful Secretary of State really screwed up the Middle East. God, man. The Turkey right now is on some kind of high alert. The country of Turkey, not the one that's got on Thanksgiving. Because they say, without even getting authorization from, back at their headquarters, if they see any Russian jets that cross the border, shoot them down. And I'm thinking, boy, Putin's going to freaking go for that. You know what's going to happen, man? I've been saying this all along. I'm like thinking, when the hell is this going to happen? It's bad news. It leads to some good news. Mostly bad news is warfare. But the one thing that leads to good news on that is like that's what makes gold go up and the oil and the commodities. That's really what happens. That's what you're protecting yourself. And I think that they really ran out of every damn freaking options they got now. They tried every trick in the book. They pushed the equity sector into a bubble. The equity sector rose way over what it should have because actually the equities normally goes up within a few percentage points of the GDP and the inflation rate, and instead of it going up a few percent, it went up twice since 2009. So I think the elite that are back there in the planning boards and this is in their house, they're in a quandary. They got a problem. So they all invested into, a lot of people are just pulling out of the market still. Except, of course, the middle class, they're going to stay put. Because they figure, it'll recover. That's what the brokers always tell them. But you know what? The brokers always tell them to keep your money in there. If you didn't invest with those brokers, they wouldn't make any money. And this is something else I'm going to tell you about where I really think silver is the thing that's going to kill the elite. If a lot of people did it, or precious metals, or, well, that's probably one of your most convenient things because I could say like real items, real assets and stuff. But silver's not going to be for the people that are just too poor to buy it. Some people are just scraping by. So I mean, that's not the thing to do. For people just scraping by, what you really want to get into is gardening or something like that. I mean, that would be the number one thing you should do. Try to grow some of your own food. But if you have this money that, you wrap up with brokers, and this really is why, and I don't think anybody really emphasizes this too much, but if you haven't noticed, the candidates they push in politics, and that's why I started this out with Hillary Clinton. Which candidates do they push in politics the most? The ones that are going to help Wall Street. The ones with the biggest bucks, right? The ones in like J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, J.P. Morgan Chase, I meant to say, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, Citibank, Wells Fargo, and all that other garbage. They always want political candidates to help those guys. Now, why does the middle class that has any kind of substantial wealth, that are against all this stuff, that aren't part of the elitist structure, who don't get bailouts, they get used by these people where they invest their money in, because when a thing declines, they get caught up in the garbage, they get caught up in a real estate bust, they get caught up in a tech bust, they get caught up in the 1987 bust, whatever the hell it was back then. So why do they invest all their money in these people that are screwing them over? See, that's where the beauty of like gold and silver and some of the precious metals, it's better to have that, because you're not giving it to these brokers who are just collecting a fat fee off your money. Why be part of that bullshit? Because the ones that get bailed out are always pushing politicians that will get them bailed out, but you're not getting bailed out. Just the very, very top people get bailed out. That's why Warren Buffett likes Hillary Clinton. I don't know if she's going to be the next president, though. See, I don't even care about this shit too much, to tell you the truth, because I realize they're all screwed up, and just that sometimes when they're not obviously screwed up, that's bad because people aren't cautious. In the case of Hillary Clinton, if she said all this good stuff for a change, everybody would be against it just because he said it. So I don't think she'd ever get anything done. Well, meantime, in Oregon, the state of Oregon, there's another guy up there, man, arrested for everything: unlawful possession of a cured vehicle, firearm by a felon, theft, possession of whatever. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you something else that's going on here, because we're really, I didn't really look at this Oregon militia thing too much. I kind of really looked at it really quick. But I want to comment on this a little bit in this, even though this is a silver video, and I know a lot of people are interested in this other stuff though sometimes. I don't know what those guys were doing up there exactly, to tell you the truth. I know like there's some stuff with uranium that's supposedly on the public lands, and the BLM is saying don't go there because they've been ordered for the people not to go there. And there's these inside deals going on with some of this uranium and all these precious resources on these public lands, quote unquote, owned by the American people, are being like tapped by like Russia and China. And I think a lot of that is those deals are made behind the scenes by, you name it, the Clintons. It doesn't surprise me. I didn't get into it in detail, but I know like on his second election bid, Bill Clinton got campaign contributions from foreign government for selling missile technology to China, right? Wouldn't surprise me. These people got no bounds, But, I'm saying what I think, see, I'm bringing this up in this silver video is, shit is so corrupt that people are losing faith in the system. So one thing, I don't know why people will have like umpteen millions of dollars or investing all their money with these suits. They should take some of it and actually have some of it physically. I know some of them do. They usually do have it in jewelry, paintings, real estate, like Trump has real estate. But, and you know what? The inflation rate is actually being reflected in those type of things. Like the jewelry, the paintings, the artwork. It's going through the roof. Because that's not something that's being manipulated by, the government, like in the consumer price index, like they are always using principle of substitution all the time. But actually, where the money is really going, for the most part, with the easy money from the Federal Reserve, it's going into the too bigs to fail, and it's actually causing inflation in equities, not only the equities we see in the Dow and the S&P, but also like real assets such as collector assets and investment grade assets. So I think a lot of that money is going to find a new home to go to, and it can't stay in cash. But in the meantime, there's a lot of I want to comment a little more on this militia thing because you know I personally think those guys. Well, I don't know what the deal was. Maybe there was a psych ops setup. I don't know what the hell the deal is up there. But I know there's like a lot of undercurrent, like oh God, the government's after us and shit. And in some ways they are. But I also want to say though, one thing you do not want to do is go head to head and take a defensive position against an overwhelming force. You never do that. That's like the worst military strategy going. Period. I'll tell you what not to do. Okay, I'm not going to give you any ideas because my brain is beyond what the hell you can think of, and I'm not going to say shit about anything else. But I'm going to tell you this. Like, for instance, when he had General Fabian of the Roman army, even when he had an army, he didn't go against freaking Hannibal head on. He knew he'd lose. And you know what? If you want to take another case example, even when you have overwhelming forces, because a lot of these people got these idealistic freaking notions in their head, they're going to take on the U.S. government head to head, mano a mano. Even when you have like really big forces, which the case in Oregon they didn't. I don't want to make light of it because I think the one guy was shot in cold blood, that Lavoie guy. But even when you have big forces, you don't take on a whole government because, if you want to look at what happened with the Viet Cong and the Tet Offensive, despite what the major media said, the major media way back when they had the Tet Offensive of 1968 in Vietnam, they were making it sound like, oh, the Tet Offensive's kicking the USA. No, they didn't. They did initially at first, but you know what? They just came out like a bunch of big, fat, juicy targets, and we wiped their ass. We killed them all. So I don't want to tell you. I don't want to give anybody any ideas because I got all kinds of freaking ideas. I'm the freaking. I'm beyond belief, but I don't want to say. But I want to tell you not. I'm going to tell you what not to do. That's not. You don't do that. That's stupid. So, so I kind of mentioned that in here about Oregon a little bit because, figure what the hell. But in the meantime, the Federal Reserve has got no more freaking policy left they could freaking deal with, as far as the economy. Like I know one of the big criticisms now coming from, I didn't put that right, I know I didn't, but one of the big criticisms coming now is like, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates, it shouldn't have done it, it was a mistake. Well, you know what? And I don't really think it has squat to doing anything. Just the economy and all the voodoo numbers that are out there in the equities, they're basically all pumped up with this funny syrup you see over here. It's all on drugs. It's all on meds or something. It's basically not natural. It's been said for a long period of time. The retail sector of the economy in the United States sucked. They're moving manufacturing overseas. You're seeing a lot of you see what happened during the Christmas Day holidays and also Black Friday. They're getting worse and worse. The Baltic Dry Index is going way down, which is all the shipping of goods across the world. And the thing is, this cat is jumping on me and shit. Putin, cut that out. That's Putin the cat, not Mr. Putin. Anyway, the cat is smarter than the guy. But anyway, the thing is, what the hell was I talking about? The thing is, like, there's so many real indicators that the economy is bad, and you had the stock market going up. Like I said, the stock market was going up really because of Fed policy. Fed policy was creating a bubble in the stock market. So when they raised interest rates, I mean, it's kind of coinciding with something that should be happening anyway. It should be coming down. The PE ratios, the price earnings ratios sucked, and they just can't just keep adding more of this funny codeine cough medicine shit into the mix and making it go up more. It's done. And actually, it's going to have I think actually the stock market's going to have a really long time that it's going to be down, maybe. I mean, if it goes up, it's probably going to go up because we have rampant inflation in the United States. But I think we might be coming into a long-term trend like the 1929 to late 1950s trend with the stock market. A lot of people don't remember that type of stuff, but actually the stock market was the wrong place to be for that whole era. And then from like the late 50s to even today, it's good. But we're probably breaking a long-term trend. So anyway, you know, I don't think things will take off as quickly as people think. Some people are hanging on into equities, and so I'm thinking, where do you want to stay? Where do you want to stay? What the hell's left? What's left? Equities ain't the place to be anymore. Maybe equities in that were performing really bad before. Maybe some of the mining companies. Maybe they'd be the thing to buy now, right? But anything that had a good past history, it's usually the place not to be. The dollar's been strong the last several years, but it's in a long-term downtrend over the last 30 years. So, you really want to be in a place that looks the worst. Right now, the worst stuff that looks at is probably silver. Silver looks pretty bad. It's been looking bad, man. I'm getting sick of it looking bad. I can tell you that honestly. But, I got patience on this shit. And I do know that that's the nature of the game. Now, if you really want to get psychologically screwed with, I could tell you that the Russians were these people I was dealing with. They were dealing with these isotopes, and they're worth like they went from literally 1,000-fold higher to like a tenth of a percent. Literally, literally. I think there was like 20. I forgot what the hell those numbers were. $2,700 a gram, down to like $3 or $4 a gram on some of these isotopes. There's different kinds. It was all. Some of them were worth even more than that. Some were like up to like I don't remember exactly because I forgot this stuff. That was some years ago. It was like 15,000. You think I'm full of shit, but actually I was in with this shit. It was like they were putting them on the private placement platforms and all this other kind of crap, doing some really wild shit. Um, so anyway, and I can tell you right now, Broomhilda, the chick on the motorcycle here, she's everybody worries about her, but you know what? She's the errand girl for the elite. The thing is, people should not invest with the elite. That's really number one, and that's why every time, even if you stop Hillary, what does the Republicans say? Stop Hillary. Even if you stopped her, right? What happens? If you keep investing at the elite, everybody freaking invests in brokers. Oh, you can buy gold with us. Yeah, no, you can't. You're buying paper. Yeah, see, it's in the vault. I took a picture of it. Well, that's somebody else's freaking gold, too. That's another fund. It's triple counted. I don't really, I'm not going to know exactly what they do, but I do know they do shit like this. Okay? I've been around a lot, so I know there's a lot of shit that goes on. And it's like you gotta just think a little bit like common sense. But quite honestly, I've been around some really weird shit. Weirder than this chick has been around. She's pretty weird. It's probably one of Hillary's girlfriends in line waiting for Mama to get home. But I've been around some really weird shit. There's no bullshit about that. And I think I know why, man. Maybe I got some of that crazy DNA from way back because I didn't know I did know. Well, I'll just tell you, it's no bullshit. I knew I was like I heard this, but now I got it down. It's like, yeah, I am it was my great grandfather was the illegitimate son of the Duke Albert Edward, who later became Edward VII. But allegedly, that guy's father was Nathan Lionel Rothschild. So who the hell knows, man? I don't know. Maybe just because I've been around some really weird shit, and I don't like being around that shit too much because it's like a bunch of phony crap. But I'm used to. I'm so. You know what? A lot of people on the internet don't realize how things are at the top, and I can tell you this. You as preppers, like this guy here, he's a prepper. He's a true prepper. He's got the stogie in his mouth. He's got the right attitude. He's just chilled out. He's just looking at the situation. He ain't worried about it too much. He's a little worried about it, but he's not that worried about it. But I want to tell you, though, you as preppers, um, I, I don't think you realize how much people could freaking lie. Now, you might be thinking I'm lying about some of the other shit I told you, but you know what? The fact that my great grandfather was the illegitimate son of King Edward, that plus $2 will buy me a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? It doesn't really, but sometimes it makes me freaking wonder why I got into a lot of weird shit. And I've been around some really weird shit. But I could tell you that I know the people with the most money. They're like they got like 12 personalities. They're one way in family. They're another way with friends. They're another way with broads they like to screw around with. They're another way with business. And they're different ways in different businesses depending on what they are. They're like chameleons. That's why, a lot of people kidding on my case, like, I don't trust Trump. I know I don't trust Trump. Does that necessarily mean he's the worst guy in the thing? But I think he's a ringer for the Clintons. Yeah, I do. Not necessarily because of the other people saying that shit, but I figured he was for other reasons because he can't go 180 degrees the way he did so quick, you know. But I don't know. We're gonna see about that deal, but don't go ballistic if it turns out that Hillary drops out of the race maybe because she had a heart attack or some shit, her head exploded, and then you got what's his face in there, Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg, and then Bernie's giving his support to Bloomberg, and then Trump runs on an independent, and I don't know who the hell the Republican's gonna be, and he throws it to the Wall Street Insider, which will be Bloomberg. It won't be Bernie. It won't be Bernie. I'm throwing this in here because I don't want to make another video about this politics shit. But you know what? It really is important for the overall strategy. See, it's not even like, some people are thinking about, and the money will come if freaking people do this shit right. And the thing is, not enough people are invested in silver to bring it, which that would actually bring the price up because you would also chop down. Yeah, I know it would be more demand for silver, but also you would be chopping out the freaking brokers and all the freaking too bigs to fail in Wall Street if more people were investing in silver. It's almost like people are looking at, well, how much is it going to go up? How much money am I going to make? Well, you know what? You got to not think of it that way. You got to think of principle first. When you think of principle first, the money will follow. If you keep thinking about the money, see, there's too many people are just thinking, well, how much money can I make right now? That's what's screwing it up. If everybody was so pissed off at the current situation, oh, like Jeb Bush. Oh, Jeb Bush is a Wall Street insider. Oh, that's no good, right? Even Ted Cruz is a Wall Street insider. His wife works for Goldman Sachs, right? Trump is a Wall Street insider. They all are, okay? Hillary Clinton. Bernie, even though he's a commie, I think he's not a Wall Street insider. That's why they're never going to let him get on the Democratic ticket. Bloomberg will jump in here. Hey, I got to take over now. You're going to support me. But, the thing is, everybody's so frustrated with this stuff. See, the politics and the economy shit's related, right? You know what I mean? It's like you're not supposed to talk about politics, economy, or religion. Well, we'll get to religion. But I'm going to tell you, it's all related, right? And, people are disgusted with the politics, they're disgusted with the economy. That's why you invest in silver. You're not, it's like you're fighting them. You really are fighting them, but not enough people are doing it. It's like the 3 people on a hill in Oregon. I mean, if there was a million people up there, even if there was 500,000 naked hookers up there like Femin, that would get the FBI's attention. They'd be freaking, hey, let's play around with the chicks. That's the way I would play that game if I could. But anyway, but as far as, everybody doesn't jump on it. So it's like, it reminds me of like some of the military history, like the Army takes a hill and they give it up. There's a few people that stay up there and they get whacked by the Japanese, right? Way back when, right? That's kind of the problem. People are too focused in on making a quick buck. Now, first off, I know the silver is going to go up because the currency in the United States will be devalued. That's the final step. It will, people don't have enough patience. But say it wasn't going to go up. Say it never would go up because the currency wouldn't be devalued, right? Or something like that. I know it is going to because it's already started with the Chinese yuan. But the fact that you pull your money out of these brokers, people who have money with brokers, and you don't deal with these suits that are freaking stabbing you in the back politically every freaking turn, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, because they only elect people that bail out the too bigs to fail, you're pulling the rug out from under them. But enough people are doing it. That's the problem. But whatever. I already know it's going to go up a lot, so I'm not worried about it. I'm chill with it. I'm chill with it. I know it will go up a lot, so just like old girl hanging out on the bike here. She's not worried about nothing. I ain't worried about nothing either. But anyway, the one thing you ought to be worried about is ISIS. Because right now, they got these ISIS chicks out there riding mountain bikes in the snow on a trail. You heard about Blizzard Jonas? They're out there in Pennsylvania riding around their bikes doing terrorist acts. And the thing is, to show you how crazy the situation is in the United States, the North and the South is still way different from each other. That is so obvious because there's I forget, I'm not going to remember all the states that voted for this, but there's a bunch of states that voted against outlawing. They said Sharia law will be outlawed in our state. It was North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, in South Dakota. But mostly Dixie. Then you go up to New Jersey. There was a couple guys in Secaucus that told this Muslim woman, go back where you came from and eat pork or some shit like that. And they got arrested by the cops. And I was like, holy shit, In the meantime, you go to England and stuff like that. The Muslims are saying, kill all the infidels. And they're fine. It's a protest. You could do that, right? I think every part of the country is different so much that, but I know how that's going to come out. They're eventually going to say, that's the South, they're racist. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. Muslims ain't racist. But anyway, as far as I'm concerned, well, I'll put it to you bluntly, pussy's pussy. So let me put it to you this way. The thing's going to happen one way or the other with this deal, and, I should have meant to say people are people. But, Americans really need to stick and fight for what's right. That's really what it comes down to. I know part of it is the silver, but also like old American girl here is like thinking one of them refugees is marching outside. She's like, hey, I'm scared. So she takes action, Maybe she don't pull the trigger, but she's worried, right? But she's not so worried when she's in this fighting position. So, I have to tell you, though, that, when you have silver, you should have some confidence in the economic future. I know it got slaughtered to me, I never recommended getting freaking silver with $30 an ounce. I know there's a lot of people saying, yeah, it's a great deal at 45. But I think anybody even who bought the stuff at 48 or 50, whatever the hell it was, even if it went up to, in some cases there might have been $50 an ounce, they're all going to make out if they're patient over the years. But if you can invest in a broker when there's a financial crisis, you're not going to even have the FDIC bail out what's going on in that. It's going to be like dealing with John Corazine. I think a lot of stuff's going to be vaporware. I mean, not everything, not all paper assets, because a lot of paper assets are going to represent a share in a company that's producing something, especially like an agricultural entity. But a lot of the things are especially the commodities with these electronically funded, ETFs, electronic traded funds. You're going to wind up that the underlying asset is in there, and people are going to get screwed with that type of stuff. Not everything on paper is going down, but a lot of stuff will be. So, I mean, if you're in the right position and you got in the right position, just bear out the patience, and it will bear fruit. Problem is, a lot of people looking for a fast USA greenback, and it's not going to happen. But the people that are so much into money, I think that this is what's going to happen to them, just like this picture right here. It's going to go Shazam all in one shot. I think when the dollar falls, it's going to happen pretty rapidly. I don't think it's going to fall to oblivion, but it's going to lose a lot of its value. Yeah, I know when it starts coming down, people are going to be predicting it's going to go to 2% of its wealth and all its worth and all that kind of stuff. But I think it will drop. It will. The dollar will have a sudden fall. That's typical how anything happens. The dollar actually is kind of like it's been in a bubble the last 3 years. By default, because everything else looks so screwed up. But what's going to happen in the future? Now that I know China's not doing too good in some ways, but with the PMI, their primary manufacturing index, and there's a lot of indications they're not doing that great. But now people can invest in a dollar. Now in yuan, the Chinese money, because now it's part of the SDR, World Reserve Currency basket. And that's going to start. Like Russia, for instance, is selling oil to China in exchange for Chinese money, skipping the dollar. It's also putting Saudi in a hurt locker too for that reason. Saudi's burning through their cash reserves left and right. I think the one ace that the USA has up its sleeve is that the oil industry in the United States is actually still there, even though it needs to have a much higher price for it to be, pumped out of the ground. Like fracking industry is destroyed at $30 or $33 a barrel, but I think it's going to go way the hell up because now I'm looking at this new thing with Turkey, and also Saudi and Iran are going at it even harder and harder behind the scenes. You're going to see the oil price go up globally, and also there might be an agreement with. See, there's a tentative agreement where the Russians and Saudis get together, which, Russia's not part of OPEC, but the Russians and the Saudis get together, traditionally enemies, but they have a common goal. They want to get these oil prices up. They might both cut production. And Putin's back is to the wall now. He wouldn't have done this last year, but he might do it this year. Because if they keep going the way they are, right now Russia's going to fall apart completely. So it might happen. So that'll bring the price of oil up, on top of maybe major tensions between Turkey and Russia, and maybe more major tensions between Iran and Saudi. But this is how the elite in the United States will make money, because we got to. I know some people say, no, we don't have a politically stable structure here, but we do. Relative to what's going on in the Middle East and elsewhere in the world, the United States doesn't have like this major political turmoil, except in some places in Oregon. And I don't want to make light of those people, because I think they had their hearts in the right place, for sure. But for the most part, that it's in this situation in the United States. We don't have like all these, ISIS terrorists, trying to do all this stuff. Now, I do realize there's a gazillion problems going on. There are freaking nefarious bastards like the Clintons that are selling out our nations and our nation's secrets to our enemies for their own political gain and their contributions and to fund their damn Clinton Foundation. But, playing a game where you pit yourself against the government, directly against the government, because of those shitheads, ain't gonna work. I'll tell you that right now. But I don't know. I wish I could say more in here, because I got a lot of crazy plans, but I don't want to say too much on here, because I'm a very shrewd person in a lot of ways. But this I think is going to be good representation of what's going to happen to the equities in the dollar, probably even this year. I mean, it may not happen in one day or 10 minutes or something like that, but before you know it, you're going to turn around and you look back and say, holy shit, everything did drop a lot. And relatively speaking, there's not too much, relatively speaking, I think the metals are going to be looking good. There actually is a gold shortage out there for production. And once people start piling in there, they should be piling in there on principle, but they're going to be piling in there on greed, and it's going to cause it to go up. Which, on the flip side, on the way up, it's going to go too damn high. Which, at that point, everybody's going to be telling you, it's going to go higher, it's going to go higher. And I'll be like, screw that shit. I'm going to be selling that stuff, and I'll be buying some land. So anyway, that's about all I got to say on this deal. Um, I wanted to jump around a little bit on this update because I don't want to make separate videos about different things and make a lot of drama about Oregon and stuff. And you know, um, actually, I feel bad about that shit in Oregon, and I wanted to bring it up in this video. But you know, at the same time, I don't feel. I don't. The government was being assholes too, for sure. I think they're all being assholes all the way around, and I think a lot of people that had good intentions were being set up by some. I don't know. Something didn't smell right about that whole deal out there. But I know a lot of people are thinking about that are also into this alternative investing with shiny silver coins. They're all thinking about that stuff too. So I figured I'd mention that. I don't know. I'd like to say a little more about that, but I don't want to because I think actually the one guy was killed in cold blood. To tell you the truth, man, I don't think he was drawing a weapon. I'll tell you that right now. I'm pretty damn sure of it. And you could say, I could say my reasons why, because I don't think, the guy was walking around with his hands up. Why the hell would he do that? And then usually he wears a weapon like a cowboy. You don't wear it like under his arm. That was another thing. So he might have got shot right then. I'll kind of say that right here because I don't want to put that on a separate video because I don't know, YouTube might not like it. I'm against the government, but I'm not against the government. I'm against some of the bullshit that's going on in the government. But anyway, some of the bullshit that's going on in the government is actually all attached is actually coming from Wall Street. And like I said, catch 22. All these damn conservatives and stuff like that. Oh, we're fed up with Wall Street, or even liberals, whatever. We're fed up with Wall Street. Yeah, well, you know what? You just keep giving them your money. What's your problem, man? How about you freaking get some shiny silver coins instead? I mean, it's so damn dirt cheap right now. I mean, I can't figure them doing that bad from here on in. And, Janet Yellen ain't going to be able to shit out some more of those things. She could shit out as much paper as she wants or whatever the hell she wants. And when the derivatives bubble blows up, I don't know, it might be goodbye freaking everything, right? And, this might be a former Wall Street hedge fund manager right here with the dog begging for money. So, the world can change. And, I always say this. Karma comes around because when you are dishonest and you're doing all this rotten shit, whatever, it goes along, dishonest and doing all this rotten shit, it always comes around to bite you in the ass one way or the other. It might take umpteen years, but it does. I mean, just look at the face of Warren Buffett and George Soros. I know they're old, but they look crusty like that for the last 10 decades, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that really came around and bit him in the ass a long time ago, right? And look at Hillary Clinton. Holy shit. She's no, retired porn star Seika or nothing like that. She's not. No way in hell. So, and look at Bill. I mean, he looks like, Alzheimer's poster child or some shit, along with Bernie Sanders. So, I mean, these guys are like, I don't know, they're all falling apart, I guess, due to all the pressures of all their freaking lies and bullshit they got to keep up with. So, that's just the way things are. That's one reason I'm not bothering with these assholes anymore. It's like, I'm pretty good at this. I could play the game fast better than they can, but I don't want to. Fuck them, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's my update. If you're bored, get out a rag and polish up your coins and shit like that. And, chill out. Don't worry about it. And, there's going to be like a 3-for-1 sale when Femin goes broke, okay? So, just look at it that way. Don't even look at it so much at how much dollars you're going to get. Think about how many goods you're going to get for that. So, there you go, right?